Hello.
Hi, everybody. Welcome aboard.
Hi.
We had a slight delay. Somebody tried to bring an oversized carry-on bag, and we had to, send them back to check it. But welcome, everyone. We're so excited to be traveling to Mumbai together tonight. Just waiting for a couple more people to come to the gate, to come to Sha'ar, to get on. But I think we're good to go. All right. So again, welcome to Sha'ar. Welcome to the Armchair Pilgrim Supper Club. My name is Adina Lewidis. I'm the rabbi of Sha'ar, and I'm so excited to be traveling to Mumbai together tonight. This is the third of our Armchair Pilgrim Supper Club, our virtual travel club. We've been already in the last few months to Baghdad. We've been to Izmir in Turkey, and tonight we head to India. If you have been with us in our other trips, we welcome you back. If you're new tonight, we are so happy to welcome you to Sha'ar. As many of you know by now, travel is a big component of what we like to enjoy together at Sha'ar. We use the opportunity to travel around the world very intentionally as a setting for informal Jewish learning, as a setting for deep personal reflection, as a setting for engagement with the larger issues that surround us in the world in which we live and that we share with so many other people. And we always return from our trips with a deeper sense of who we are in the world and the people that we wish to be, both in our home Jewish communities and in our home countries where we live. Far more than what it is that we learn about others, or I should say at least equally sacred in terms of what we learn about others when we engage in our travel programs, is what we really come to learn about ourselves. The pandemic has been very limiting, of course, to that part of our community adventures, but we didn't let it keep us grounded spiritually, even as the pandemic has grounded us physically, in the sense that we've been able to come together and to keep broadening our horizons by traveling to these very different places, many of which are places that we may not have the opportunity to get to physically, but that we're going to be able to visit together here virtually. We have some of the most amazing tour guides with us tonight. As always, we have Rav Chaim Ovadia, who's become such a special partner to Sha'ar with his wisdom and his humor and his just warmth and storytelling gifts. We have music brought to us by the incomparable Dan Nadel and the friends that he has brought to our programs tonight. We have Arun, who's with us. You'll be introduced to Arun Ramamurthy in just a few moments. And we have special visitors with us, special guides with us tonight, Lulu and Alan Fenston from Los Angeles, whose family roots are in India, and they will be sharing with us some wonderful stories and images of the special place that we are here tonight to discover. I want to also acknowledge the support of our Sha'ar family member, Penny Raffaeli, who always brings this all together for us with wonderful background readings and recipes that we're going to talk about in just a few moments. Before we get started, before we take off, I want to offer everybody a cocktail, not just those of us or those who have joined us up in business class. Ellen Landsberger, Susan Hyman, thanks so much for coming backstage or visiting the cockpit with us before starting. But tonight's cocktail, we always have a drink made of ingredients from the local bounty where we're visiting. Tonight's cocktail is called an Indian Winter. And it has this beautiful, warm sort of combination of ingredients with cardamom and lemon and Angostura bitters. So I'm just going to walk us through it because I took the liberty of making a few minor adjustments. So if you have your spirits with you, of course you have your spirits with you, that's why you're all here. But if you have the alcoholic spirits with you, I'm going to invite you to join me as we craft this cocktail. I'm actually not at our usual home where we've laid everything out on the bar. Andy and I are up in the Laurentian Mountains north of Montreal, so we're improvising a little bit here. But for the first ingredient to put into your shaker, which I hope you have with ice. Some of you are using vodka. I actually took the liberty of substituting bourbon for vodka. I thought the brown liquor of the bourbon went really nicely with the cardamom. This is also one of my favorite bourbons. It's from a very small distillery outside Chicago called Koval. It is both organic and textured and is a really beautiful bourbon for those of you who are bourbon lovers like we are. So if you're making one cocktail, you're going to put 1.5 ounces of either your bourbon or your vodka into your shaker. Hang on. I'm making 2 drinks, 2 for me, 0 for Andy. Followed up by this cardamom simple syrup. I don't know how many of you actually made it. Here's a hint also. You might want to add some extra cardamom pods to it to give it a deeper cardamom flavor. It's a honey cardamom simple syrup. And we're going to put some of that into our shaker also. It's about 1.5 ounces it calls for. I like my drinks a little less sweet, so I'm going to put a little bit less. Then you're going to take freshly squeezed lemon juice. You should know me by now. Never skimp on the fresh citrus. If it calls for lime or lemon, nothing out of the bottle, fresh right from the fruit. So we're going to put some lemon juice in here. And then I also, full disclosure, skipped the egg white. Sorry, I just couldn't do it. But Ellen did it and says that it's a great drink. I'm going to put a few dashes of Angostura. And we're going to shake it up and wish each other a l'chaim and a nisiat tova, a safe trip. All right, here we go. 1 for you and 1 for me. Okay. Welcome everybody.
L'chaim.
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 Trip, and welcome Rav Avadia. Welcome Lulu and Alan, Dan, Arun. Great to be together. Take us away. Rav Chaim, do you want to offer a few words of introduction?
Yeah, I'll be brief because we started a little late, as you said. So it's great to be here again. It's great to see my friends, the Feinsteins, Lulu and Alan from LA. I like Dini said, you know, I didn't visit India. I wish I could. Maybe, one day. But growing up in Israel, I had friends from India, Jewish Indians or Indian Jews, in school, in the army, in the synagogue. But it took years until I came to LA in 2000 to start working with a community of Iraqi Jews that was founded by Lulu's father, Hazan Sassoon Ezra, and brought Jews from all over. He brought Iraqi Jews from all over the world, but mainly from the Far East, from India mainly, and also from Burma, Indonesia, China, Japan. It was a very interesting community, very lively, very loving, amazing people. The history of Jewish India is rich and ancient. Some say it goes back 2,900 years. Others say it's only 2,700 years. In any case, it's ancient. There are different communities of Jews in India. There's Bnei Israel, Bnei Menashe, Bnei Ephraim. There are the Jews of Cochin and the Iraqi Jews of Mumbai and Kolkata, and British Jews, Jews who came with the British to Madras, and with the Portuguese to Goa. And each one of them has a different facet of this huge and colorful country. But I think maybe we will start with music, because we're at that time that we could start with music and bring some beautiful notes and words. Dan, do you want to say something about Manavu?
No, I think you should speak about Manavu, but
Okay.
I'll ask Dini to spotlight the three of us, please. Arun
Okay.
and Rab Chaim and myself. Thank you.
Okay. So Manavu is a song, is a poem that is sung by Iraqi Jews in what is called farah, bil farah, which means in happy occasions. It's a very common name also among Iraqi Jews for a woman, Farha, which means happiness, joy, Simha. And when you have Samahot, which bar mitzvah, bat mitzvah, a baby girl, baby boy, weddings, that's the song that you sing. But interestingly enough, it's not about a joyous occasion. It's not about a wedding or a brit or anything like that. It's about going back to Yerushalayim. Man navu alei ha'arim raglei mevaser shalom bevinya erech. How gracious upon the mountains are the footsteps of the Redeemer, who's going to tell you to come back to Eretz Israel. And that shared longing was shared by Jews in India, Jews in Iraq. And this poem that was written in Iraq made its way with the Iraqi Jews who went to India starting in 1750 and on, and settled with them there. I must say, it's the second wave of immigration, because Iraqi Jews got to India much, much earlier and brought back with them delicious foods. We'll talk about it later. But first, let's go with Manavu Ali. רגלי מבשר שלום בבניין ערך. النابو عليك هارم رجلي بفسر شالوم لبنيان عيريخ. النابو عليك هارم رجلي بفسر شالوم ببنيان عيريخ. كل صفايخ يسفر رينا إنتنا عارك بدمجنا عين بعين تري شيخنا بشا قوانا يخلي قبولك. عدم تيكلا يا فاولا لا زرب عولا كده البيلي عدم تيكلا يا فاولا لا زرب عولا كده البيلي. عوري عوري عدد إسرائيل أحيش إشلا ينور بقويل بقام أكيم لا نقرا شعرين أخيل كيسيل دابي العبدين. برافو علي هاري مرقلي بباسر شالوم ببني أنا عيريخ برافو علي هاري مرقلي بباسر شالوم ببني أنا عيريخ.
Oh, nice. So beautiful. Dan, did you and Arun want to say anything at this point about music, or should we talk a little food first? And
First, maybe I'll ask Harun to turn up a little. We're doing this via Zoom, so this has its own challenges, and we're not quite sure what's coming out at all the other ends at your homes. I can just say that I did one live concert. This is maybe a couple of years ago, with Rav Chaim and Arun, and a few other musicians of Indian classical music. And Rav Chaim was already living in Maryland at the time, so there was no way to really rehearse, and no one was talking about Zoom in those days or anything like that. So we just showed up at the location a few hours earlier and figured, we'd rehearse as much as we could, and it was a really beautiful feeling. It's like the connection was instantaneous. Chaim and I go way back, but the connection between the musicians and Rav Chaim just felt very, very natural and intuitive. And so we spent a couple of hours rehearsing, but then we went to grab some food, and then and just felt our way through the show, and it felt very natural, and makes you think about what it must have felt like for Jews coming from Baghdad to India. There must have been some level of comfort, on many levels, but the music was one level where it felt intuitively right, that we could just do a concert immediately with barely any rehearsal. So I think that's what I have to say for now. And,
fascinating how we think on so many levels that we're so different from one another, and yet when we come into each other's presence, we also find a certain rhythm of our humanity that also brings us together. So I want to pause and ask if anybody took the opportunity to make the recipe that we shared for dinner tonight. Did anyone? Oh, sorry, hold on. Did anybody have a chance to cook the curry? Feel free to unmute and share how it came out.
I didn't make the exact recipe, but I'm making some chicken with curry powder as like a substitute. So
nice. I took some liberties with the cocktail. You're entitled to take liberties with the recipe.
it smells nice.
Nice. Anybody else? Thanks, Jamal.
I ordered Indian food in.
Next best thing.
I
There's a
did
limit.
try. Okay, I tried it. It's pretty good, but I resorted to samosa tonight.
Fair enough. Reed, what are you munching on there?
Chicken shawarma pie. I made that for Shabbat, and it is leftovers.
Okay. As
So
done
we
said.
had Indian food last night for dinner, takeout.
Oh, that's fair. And as Dunn said, on some level, we're all related on. So
I got some Indian food from Fresh Direct that I'm kind of cooking. It's like prepared, but I'm cooking it.
I didn't make anything tonight, but I want to share a story about Iraq. Indian food. Actually, Indian food that made its way from India to Iraq. With the Jewish merchants going back and forth. Now everybody knows it in America. I think it's called samosa, right?
Made. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but Iraqi Jews changed its name and they re-owned it, right? They call it sambusak. And I think they added the B because in Arabic, busa means kiss. So they say like, so okay, we'll get some busa. They will get some kisses. And so like little dough pockets, right? Filled with, you could do, there are different fillings. You could do ground nuts with, with spices, and that's the sweet one. Then you have cheese sambusak. Why? Well, I have to tell this story. When my wife was pregnant, we lived in LA, and my wife was pregnant, and she tasted one of Mr. Ezra, Lulu's father's cheese sambusak, right? And she said it's delicious. So he would show up every night with a whole. I just remember that, right, with a whole tray of cheese sambusak from my wife. And she said, "Wow, that's amazing. How do you do this?" "Oh, don't worry, just take it, enjoy." Like. And then we found out that he would steal. His daughters would make the sambusak, and they said, "Where is the sambusak going?" They just disappeared because he cared so much about my wife, and he would bring her every night. But in any case, what the story I wanted to share is the third type of sambusak, that is fried onions with ground garbanzo beans and curry spices, cumin, pepper. It's delicious, and it tastes really like meat. It's the original meat substitute, the vegan steak. So whenever when I was a kid in elementary school, my mom would make it, for the parents, teachers, meetings, whatever. That was at the time where people would still eat food that someone else prepared at home. She would bring it to school, and everybody would come to my mother and says, "Oh, Mrs. Ovadia, so tasty. Is this fleischig? Is this fleischig?" It's just no. So that's my Indian food story. I have more, but
Well, I was hard at work on the slopes today. This is what I came home to.
Excellent.
Now, Andy's going to tell you a little bit about what she made.
Okay, so I'm a total rule follower for those of you who don't know me. So I followed that recipe and made fish curry that I was told to make. I did add garbanzo beans to it, Rabbi Ovadia, so that added something special. And I've been told by the kids in the house that this is the best thing they have ever tasted.
Oh, excellent.
That's a hard thing to follow. And I do have to add my own, as Penny will understand, South African.
Good.
We grew up in South Africa with some of the greatest curries ever. But we were also told that when you have curry, you've got to have the chutney. And there's only one chutney that all of you need to get. And this is Mrs. Ball's chutney that you can find in Fairway in the city. And if you add the chutney to the curry, you have the perfect dish.
Absolutely. Good job, Andy.
So I'm going to taste it now and let you know.
Mrs. Ball's chutney.
Mrs. Ball's. It's a peach chutney.
Well, I've already tasted it, and it's fantastic. So while everyone's digging in, let me take this opportunity to introduce Alan and Lulu, who are joining us from Los Angeles, and who were introduced to us by Rav Chaim, and are going to share with us some of their stories and their insights and their photos that will bring to life Jewish life in India. So welcome, Lulu and Alan. We're so happy and honored that you're here with us tonight.
Thank you. Thank you all. It's a pleasure and an honor to have been invited by Rabbi Ovadia, who we have so much respect for and love. He's our rabbi. He's always been our rabbi. He did so much for our community. We really miss him. I miss him. My husband misses him. But I want to elaborate a little bit on of the sambusak story. Sambusak is, in the way I know it, is a cheese pastry that we make specifically or for before Yom Kippur, for after the fast, to break the fast. But every year, God bless my sister. I'm one of 5 girls. I'm the eldest of 5 girls. And my sister Nina, who lives down the block, we have a lot of girls in the family. So instead of us all baking, because everybody goes home and bakes their own sambusak, after my mom passed away and my aunts passed away, my dad, who's the only survivor of the 10 children, We said, wouldn't it be nice if we just have one baking day in between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, so that we all bake and everybody takes a bag home. No one knows who made what and which one was better. We can't compare. We get the dough, we prepare the dough. We have the video of my aunts and my mother making the sambusak every year. But I have to tell you, even though we do that, we get 30 or 40 now. My two daughters go, my granddaughter, all the nieces and nieces, God bless them. It's a growing family. So we all converge at her house and we have tables and tables and tables set up. We bake, and at the end of 4 hours of a little schmoozing and gossiping and people dropping by who know they're going to come and they're going to leave with a bag, but they didn't have to do any work because no one leaves empty handed. Everybody goes home, and I am not kidding you, the next day everybody bakes their own batch, even though we did it together. So it doesn't seem to matter. And everybody compares at the, well, that's not mine. That doesn't look like the one we made. And so there you go. So no matter what, it's like when you have two Jews on an island, you have two shuls. So no matter what, everybody does. But it's the mitzvah of the baking. The kids and the grandkids get to see how to do it. And my dad still takes a tray and says, give it to this one, to that one. They can't afford, they don't have, their family is away. And that's what we do. So yes, my dad, who was very, very big into community, both my parents. So that's the Sambusak story. I didn't want to start with a history of India because with all the resources available to us these days, you can go on to Google and look in Wikipedia, and you could pretty much figure out what the history was. So a little of my personal story. I was born in Calcutta. My parents met and married in Calcutta. My both grandparents from both sides, either side, are all from Baghdad, Iraq. My mother's family went to Rangoon. My dad's family went to Calcutta. They met when she went up to finish high school in Calcutta. And then she went back to Rangoon and came back, and my parents were married. My grandmother, I'm going to tell just a few little anecdotes. My grandmother left with my great grandmother. Basically, they escaped Baghdad. When she was 13, my grandfather, who was many years older than her, maybe 30 years, 25 years, it changes depending who you speak with. He had seen her, she was 10, 12 years old. He had seen her and he said, I'm going to marry that girl. And my great grandmother got wind. Oh, that was typical. It wasn't a big deal at all, but it was to my great grandmother. So she said, I don't think so. I'm not having any part of this. She grabbed her and the four brothers that she had, and they all made their way to Calcutta. But in those days, it was okay. The trade routes were opening up, the spices and opium. So it was not really different or foreign for them to say, we're going to go to India instead of Israel, as opposed to other countries. So she went, and of course, my grandfather followed because everybody was going to Calcutta. He went. And she said, well, here I did my best to get rid of him. And he showed up again in Calcutta. One day, my grandmother went to the temple. She was, I want to say 15 or 16, maybe 14, very young. It changes every time you speak. I think she was 16. She went to the temple, came home, and she had some money in her hand. And my grandmother said, where'd you get the money? No one had money in those days. Rupees were very hard to come by. So she told my grandmother, well, this very nice man put it in my hand. And she said, well, who does that? What? She said, well, then there were two guys standing there and somebody said something and somebody said something else. So she said, well, congratulations, Mazel Tov, you're married. And that was it. What had happened was it was Purim. So when they put the money in her hand, basically it was Tanaim. So that was the end of that. So my grandmother was about 16. She married my grandfather and had 10 children. Her first daughter was pregnant with her fifth and my grandmother's 10th, which was my father. So that shows you it was okay. It was the norm. I mean, it was not a big deal. You're married, go live with him. And that was the end of that. So that's the story of my grandmother. I know that we focused, tonight was focused on Mumbai and Bombay and Kolkata, which was not really on the map, but a couple of years ago, I decided that it was time for me to go back. I came to this country when I was 6 months old. I don't remember India, except for the stories and the amazing memories that I have from my aunts and my uncles telling us the stories of India and always trying to form that in my head. My husband and I are both travelers. We've been to South Africa, we've been to Europe and Israel several times. We just decided it was time. It was time. Well, thank God my father was alive to tell us where to go, and I recognized where he was born and the street names. I said, that's it, we're going. I can't listen to this anymore. So we planned this trip with Rahel Maslia. She did a kosher tour. She had a kosher tour, a kosher vegetarian tour through Israel. That included Calcutta. Calcutta is never included in any of the Indian trips. If you look, it's just something that's not on the map. So we said, this is it. Not only that, her father, may his soul rest in peace, Alav Shalom, who passed away this past summer, he was the rabbi of the Calcutta shul for 14 years. So we had a connection. And when he came to LA 20 years ago, he spent Shabbat at my sister's house. So we had a chance, the honor, the privilege to meet with him and hear Dvar Torah from him and spend time with this brilliant, brilliant man. So it was fortuitous. My older daughter said, you know what, you're going on this trip with Rahel Maslia. So we started all the preparations. I can't say I wasn't a little bit nervous about traveling to this country, mostly because my husband, who I always say came in with the pilgrims from the very exotic country of Chicago, the food, what does he do about the spicy food? He gets hiccups when he eats chili peppers. And my mother knew that, and she would give him the chili peppers anyways, but didn't matter. So he said, no, we're going to go because it's India. So our first stop was Bombay, a community. It's incredible community, 18th century. There were three main parts to it: the Bnei Israel, the Baghdadi and Kochini Jews. They had, in their heyday, maybe I want to say 6,000 to 10,000. Now there's a handful, maybe a couple of thousand. They built 8 synagogues. We had the pleasure of visiting these synagogues before our trip took us down south to visit Cochin, Kerala, as well as Calcutta, which was for me the adventure of a lifetime. I wanted to go back to where my parents were married. I wanted to see what the community was like, because Alan and I have been very, very involved in our Jewish community here. I went to day school. My parents were Zionists. My daughters were Israel government fellows. So there's no shortage of the Iraqi side, the Sephardic side, and the Ashkenazic side. And we're all educators. So we want to teach our children just to keep it going. So Bombay was really, really very exciting. We went to all the shuls, and after I give this little talk, hopefully I won't talk for a long time, I will do the slideshow. Some of the pictures will be out of order. That's just the way I was able to put it together, but you'll know from what I'm saying where we were. So you'll get a taste of it. It's sensory overload. I don't know how else to describe Bombay. I just want to read one paragraph from a book that was written by Pearl Sofer. Pearl Sofer left Bombay and came to America, went to England, and then went back. So she wrote, in Bombay, we grew up in a technicolor world. Beautiful Indian women in their saris of brilliant red, purple, green, orange, blue, and yellow, often sprinkled with silver and gold. The gypsies, in their multicolored skirts and cholis, which are short blouses, hand embroidered with pieces of glass, the red turbaned men of Rajasthan, their heads towering above the crowd, and even the cars and the animal carts decorated in colors unseen in the West Coast. Once, years later, as I waited at Heathrow for my plane, after a month in India, I began to feel choked and sad. I realized there were no colors around me. Everyone was wearing bland, gray, black, brown, or beige. And that's how we felt when we got to Bombay. It just hits you, the smell, the sights, just the entire, the first thing you think is, what was I thinking? What were we thinking to get here? This place is nothing but people on the streets. But within a couple of hours, the smells and the sights, you just become part of it. It's a spiritual journey. It's something, it can't really be explained. I can try. Our first stop, we went right to the Taj so we could kind of get ourselves together. And from there, we met our group and we went to the shuls. We spent Shabbat with the Indian community there, with the Bombay community. They're wonderful, wonderful people. They cooked for us, kosher, vegetarian, whatever we wanted. We had Shabbat morning services, Friday night, Mincha Mariv. The food is all prepared by Muslims. The shuls and the synagogues in India are all built in Muslim neighborhoods because they trusted them. To this day, the Muslims are the caretakers of all the synagogues. They know the rules, they know the rituals, they know how to slaughter, they know the kashrut, and the halal was the closest thing that they had to kashrut. So it turns out that the Muslims were really very friendly. India was never an issue with anti-Semitism or a discomfort within the community. We thrived both in Calcutta and Bombay. And I want to say that really, to me, it's interchangeable. The Baghdadi community in Mumbai kind of mirrored that of Calcutta. You had the same families in each city. You had the Ezras, the Judas, the Masliyas. If you go to Calcutta, it's the same family names. It's like they just didn't know anybody else. But which made fun because there was a lot of intermarriage. They knew that they could marry within the family. So over 50, 60 years, it became okay. It was fine. Everybody knew everybody, and the communities really, really did get along. They built hospitals. David Sassoon in Bombay built a hospital, a library, a community center. There are places still that carry his name. They're all historically landmarked buildings. We went to several of these places. After a while, you get tired, but you kind of have to be a little bit proud that it's still there, that they're still taking care of it, and they kind of have a lot of respect for it. They did a lot for the Indian community. While in Bombay, we also went to where the bombings took place at the Chabad. There's Chabad there at the Nariman house. That's where the Holzbergs were killed, and poor little Moshe Holzberg got away. I have a picture of in there just so you can see the bullet holes are as they were. They made a memorial. They refused to cover over it. It was heartbreaking. It was one of the most emotional moments of the trip. I don't think people really, the neighborhood that they were in refused to, they refused to let the people who did this atrocity be buried in, just out of respect for the Jews, to be buried anywhere near the Chabad house, because it was such horrific. It was horrendous. And the people there really felt for the Jews. It became a community-wide bereavement period. So we were touched by that. It is very, very, the community is very much the joint is pretty much in charge of the Jewish school there and the Jewish kids. They offer Talmud Torah, they offer classes, they offer community celebrations. I think basically Calcutta as well as Mumbai, the community, the Jewish people lived their lives around the shuls. They lived close to the shuls. They all lived close together. We had a Jewish girls' school. You had a Jewish boys' school.
Jewish trust funds. The Jewish trust funds still fund these schools.
To this day, fund them. There's an endowment to take care of them. They are renovating the shuls, and you'll see how beautiful the pictures are. And you'll believe they are magnificent buildings, and they're being taken care of and run now by the people who are in control of the endowment. There's a board of directors who's kind of raising money for it. But I think that both the communities survived. They went around the holidays, Shabbat, the Chagim. I don't want to say that they were really, really Orthodox. The word was traditional. And it's funny because when we went to South Africa, that was exactly the way they described the communities there, that they weren't 100% Orthodox the way we think of Orthodoxy now. They were traditional. They kept kosher. They did the shechting of the chicken. They had a mikvah in all the shuls. They had a kosher bakery. Nahum's is a famous kosher bakery in Calcutta. They and no meat. You have to remind me, out of respect for the Hindus, there was no meat. I know my parents would have stayed in Calcutta, or as would have the rest of the community, but in 1948, the British, with partition, I don't know if you know the history, but the British were leaving, and the government came to the Jews and said, we can't protect you anymore. So you're going to have to do something about it, because there's going to be an internal civil war between the Hindus and the Muslims, which is what happened. So the future did not look so bright for the Jews. And I think many of the people realized that they were doomed to intermarriage, their kids. There was nobody. And at that time, I think also 48 was creation of the state of Israel. So it was almost natural that a lot of them who could get out went to Israel. A lot of families went there. A lot went to England, some to the States. My uncle, everybody was split up. My uncle one went to Israel, one went to England. The rest of us were here. One of my aunts had married a British soldier and came here to Iowa, and then she brought everybody over. My mother's family stayed in Rangoon. My mother had the choice either to come here with my dad or to stay. And of course, she picked America. That was a no-brainer. But she also has, memories from childhood, being in Rangoon, being very happy as a child. The Baghdadis there, very close-knit community. That the Jews of Calcutta took care of the Rangoon community when they were forced to leave after the Japanese bombed, and they had to come back up to Calcutta. So overall, when we went back, starting in Bombay and going south, we really kind of just let the feeling of being in the Jewish community be part of us. So by the time we got to Calcutta, I had a cousin who met me from Bhutan, and he's one of he also grew up in Calcutta, and he's one of the people now who are helping to renovate. And he took us on a mini tour. We went to where my parents lived, and we had a chance to see Calcutta, which is now very, very, very big cultural center. It always was. They've got parks and museums and, just teeming with people. But if you can get past that, it really is a beautiful, beautiful city. And I would go back in a heartbeat if it wasn't for this COVID stuff going on. But we felt very safe. We loved the food, the vegetarian or otherwise, a lot of respect for Jews. I think that by the time I got to Calcutta and saw the magnificence of the shuls and the way the people lived so close, I could definitely understand how when they got to America, they were able to keep it. They were able to keep the traditions, and how my dad was so insistent that the Iraqi traditions and the songs and the music stay, because that's all we have right now. And it's dwindling. There are only 20 Jews left in Calcutta. There's maybe, I think, 3,000 in Bombay, maybe 6,000 total in the whole country.
There was 10 in the whole country.
6 to 10, it's dwindling.
But each of these cities, like Calcutta, has 15 million residents in the city. But there's a train station that brings people in from the farm areas and the rural areas in. Every day, another 6 million people come in. If you imagine 6 million people in the train station coming into a population of 15 million, the infrastructure is completely overloaded. The baths, the water fountains, everything is overloaded. There are just 21 million people. It's staggering.
But nobody's unhappy. They're all smiling. So I'm going to share one more little story. I read a book, if you're interested in reading about the Jews of Calcutta or India. It's called Flowers in the Blood. Flowers in the Blood is a book by Gay Corder, and it describes the way my family lived in Calcutta. It describes how my mother used to say we had ayahs. Ayahs were servants. Everybody had servants, and each person had their own, and the servants were very loyal, very dedicated. They would sleep outside at night, outside the door to the nursery. And all my aunts would say, I used to come see you in the morning. They all lived in one big room, apparently. I can't fathom how they did that, but they did. And they said the ayah would take you out early in the morning so you wouldn't disturb your parents. And you'd, take you in the stroller and go out all day long. In the meantime, my mother would go to work, and they have these things they're called tiffin carriers, and they're dividers. They're carriers where you could put rice in one, curry in one, vegetable in one, and some roti, some naan. And they would pack them up in the morning. The chefs would know. They'd pack them up in the morning, and they would deliver them at lunchtime. And they would never mess up. They would take 20 or 30 of these, they drop them off at everybody's office, and then in an hour come back and pick them up. So when I used to hear this story, I'm like, yeah, right, that makes totally no sense. There's no way they could do it. When we went to Bombay, they actually ride them on bicycles, and you see them all, they're all color coded, and they never mess up. So I have to say,
no computer.
No computer. They don't use any computers, bicycles to get around.
And when you get it back in the evening, you get it back clean.
Oh, they clean it up and bring it back.
It's clean. It comes back clean.
Yeah,
it's
pretty
and
awesome.
it's not like the kashrut where we put like a little tape that says kosher. They don't worry about it because they never make a mistake. They pick it up at 4 o'clock in the morning. It goes from the train to to your office building. You eat, they pick it up, and they return it clean by 6 o'clock at night. It's unbelievable.
So I don't want to bore you with any more of the stories. I'd like you to see the pictures and the photos. And you'll kind of figure out where we went to the pink synagogue. You'll see it's pink. The colors they paint the shuls, everything like you would think we have here, the menorahs and the Ner Tamid. And it's, you just go there and think, God, there are Jews in India. It's the most awesome thing ever. It's just, you go to Israel, okay, Israel's got it. But it's like when we went to Italy and we saw the Italian Jews, it's fascinating. It really is. And that the Baghdadis were able to have such a brilliant community and just artists and writers. They were writers and they studied the Ben Ish Chai. They were knowledgeable. They knew. They just passed everything down as best they could. It's a shame that it's dwindling, but we got to keep it going. So if you're ready to start.
Yes, I'll put your photos on that you've prepared for us. Thank you. I just wanted to ask you to clarify one thing that we had spoken about earlier in the week, that the trust fund, Alan, that you mentioned,
Yes.
that maintains the schools, that these are schools that are now populated by Muslim student populations, but they're referred to as the Jewish school.
Jewish girls go 100% Muslim. There are no Jews in the school, but when we went there, we did go there. I didn't know if you were interested in that, but we did go to the school, and I took pictures just so my cousins could say, oh, that's where I used to climb the tree and get in trouble. And they gave me all these stories, but they were taking our equivalent of the SATs when we went, so we had to be very quiet. They all wear uniforms, and the principal was very sweet. She said we only had one girl who got in trouble all year. There are 200 girls in the school. And that's not bad for one that got thrown out for trouble. She said they pretty much are very, very honored to go to school here. They have a very, very strict acceptance policy and exams that they make them take. So not everybody can get in. I don't know if it's, a lot of them are on scholarship, but the school itself is still running strong. And that's the other thing. When you'll see in the picture, when we went to the auditorium, they kept the original boards. I guess they used to put on, when they passed their Cambridges and their A levels,
The best
and O levels,
students.
the best students of the year. So by year, so we go in and here are these, they look like similar to when you go into the lobby of a shul and you see the donors and the name. It's a memorial board, but there on the list is my mother's name on the bottom. And it's like, it's still here after so many years, 1940 something. To me, it was such a highlight. It was such a highlight, that and going to the shul, and sitting in the space my dad was bar mitzvahed in, and where he used to sit, and he said the cantor there used to whack him on the head because she was screaming too loud when he was 14, 15. He wanted to sing, and they would say, Sass, you're too loud, slow down. So those were for me.
And where the chuppah was.
Where my parents' chuppah was, you'll see a picture of us standing there. They had an upstairs, all the shuls have upstairs galleries for the women. So there's a picture there from where my mother used to sit and look down at my father. And it was kind of sweet, I'd be able to go over that and just to be there for that. But I'm gonna go right into my favorite food, or what is one of the favorite foods. And it's something that we call, they're called literally jumping potatoes. It's alu makalak. Alu makalak, in all the books that you look at, it's in there. And what it is, it's a potato that's deep fried in turmeric and salt. It's pierced, you soak it in turmeric and salt, then you boil it, deep fried in oil. So for those of us watching our cholesterol, we've stopped over the years. But what happens is inside remains soft, the outside crusts. So when you try and cut it, it jumps off the plate. So now all the son-in-laws came into the family, that was what we gave them first. So that was our Friday night staple, along with, I can give you a number of foods, anybody who's interested in asking there. But I think what happened was when they came from Baghdad, they brought spices and ideas for spices, and then they couldn't get some of them. So over the years, ginger got in there, coriander, we have cilantro, a lot of garlic, and a lot of turmeric. So they really kind of integrated and they used things they had, and they made curries and bhajis and rice pulaus with whatever they had. And the same thing was typical with the way they dressed. From the Iraqi clothes, they went into more Western. My mother said first she was wearing the saris, and eventually to go to work, you had to kind of conform. But my mother learned how to do shorthand typing when she was in Burma. And when she came to LA, she used to train all the new people who came, who didn't know, all the women who didn't know how to do anything. She taught hundreds shorthand typing in our little apartment one night. So yeah, so my dad was busy educating, going to school, getting his master's. And that's how we were raised. I mean, I just remember them doing a lot of community work and building the shul. It took everything out of us, but I was very proud to be part of that, and proud that we still have our community here. So we do the best we can. Okay, let's look at photos.
Lulu, thank you so much for sharing from your personal stories, and now we're going to see the pictures that you and Alan took on your
Went on this trip. Anybody has questions about the trip, please feel free to email or call, or
we'll have a chance after some. We'll look at your pictures. We'll enjoy some more music, and then we'll have a chance for some questions. So everyone, just bear with me as I share my screen and start.
I want to just tell you one thing, that the third song is my father singing. The third, yeah, I think there are 3 on there. So the third one is my dad, actually. So Chaim ought to get a kick out of that one. Thank you. How do we do? Music.
It should be music too.
Music. Wait. Where's the music? Oh, no music.
You should do share computer audio.
Oh, because yeah, you'd have to use the audio.
Go down the computer there, share screen, see if you.
No, it won't work. She's got it.
Under share screen, it says share multi-users.
Maybe she has to.
This is in Mumbai.
Can we hear with music?
Oh.
But we tried it. Oh, she didn't put the music on. Okay, where's the music?
Okay, I think I figured this out.
Okay.
You couldn't hear the music because I was on mute. My apologies.
Oh,
hang on one second. We're going to start this again.
It's okay.
Bear with me 1 second. Here we go.
By the way, from a travel perspective, when you land in Mumbai, the airport is beautiful, brand new, modern.
But now you have to start over.
Okay, my apologies. Here we go.
There we go.
Okay, we can.
Someone give me the thumbs up when you can hear the music.
जब दिल ही टूट गया, जब दिल ही टूट गया, हम जी के क्या करेंगे, हम जी के क्या करेंगे, जब दिल ही टूट गया, जब दिल ही टूट गया। उल्फत का दिया हमने इस दिल में जलाया था, उल्फत का दिया हमने इस दिल में जलाया था।
I'm with his father.
لما تسوعين وموتها آدم من بوعين لا نيش لا داعات كي نحن تولد لقبهم رقبينو ويخيخ به لبينو شوخني باتي هومير لما تسوعين وموتها آدم من بهيمين ميت نون لكبر وعاريتو لكبر وزي له عيلي.
Wow, that was beautiful.
So you saw in one of those pictures how they have the special shulchan up by the Ezras Nashim. So they made a point that the women could hear, and I was very impressed by that.
Wow. So when the Torah was read, someone would ascend to the women's section,
Correct.
and there would be a shulchan, a
It
table.
was like
there.
a landing. Yes. That's
Wow.
a great idea.
I'll
It was
add
so
to that.
heavy, they couldn't drag it all over. So they took it upstairs.
I'll add to that. Can you hear me?
Yes.
When Farha Sassoon, the wife of Sleman Sassoon, who was a banker, a Baghdadi banker who relocated to India, she traveled back from India to Iraq to visit, and along the way in the communities in India and in Iraq, wherever she visited, she was honored with an aliyah, and she read the Torah.
Wow.
Oh,
I did not know that.
Yeah, and Farha Sassoon was also chosen to deliver a speech at the what was Religious Society in London Rabbinical School. The first woman, she said, she rebuked them for not being allowed to be a student there. She was more knowledgeable than all of them. But it's an amazing story about her. Anyway, thank you for that. Yeah.
Wow. Lulu and Alan, thank you so much for sharing your pictures and your stories. We're not letting you go yet. We're going to turn to Dan and Arun for some more music, and then we're going to open up for some questions, and hopefully you'll be able to help people understand even more. So Dan.
Thank you.
Sure. Hi again. Dini will spot Arun and me in a moment. So we thought it would be interesting to hear Arun play. Rabbi Chaim and I, Indian music is not our discipline, but Arun comes from the discipline of one of the disciplines of classical Indian music, or the Carnatic music, and is one of the most wonderful Indian classical musicians operating in the U.S. And we thought it would be nice to just hear him play for a few minutes and then discuss a little bit about what it is that he's doing. So, Arun.
Cool. Thank you, Dan. And nice to see everybody here today. I hope everyone's having a good evening and holiday season. So first I'll play something for you, and then we can talk a little bit. Me and Dan maybe will talk a little bit about what it is that's happening and a bit about the music. So I'm going to play a raga, which is kind of like a scale, but much more than a scale, and the fundamental aspects of Indian classical music. And this raga is called Savitri, and what I'm going to play is primarily improvised. I'd say about 80 to 90% will be improvised, with the small composition in the middle that I'm going to improvise around. So this is Raga Savitri. Thank you.
Wow.
Beautiful, Arun.
That's just
Thank
cool.
you. Um, I always have so many questions to ask you, but we've been in this we've been in this position before. But
Definitely.
but I'll ask too, because so on the musical side, so I assume some people can recognize that you're focusing on a limited number of notes. Often you're taking a 5-note grouping, often like what we call a pentatonic scale, and kind of getting at these notes from all different angles and creating so many different colors and rhythms and feels, just using those notes and different approaches to those notes and different combinations of those notes. So if you could talk a little bit about that, because in Western music we don't often think of a freedom through limitation. We think of you should know all the notes and be able to play everything, and here there's somewhat of a different approach. It's about a lot of how you approach the notes themselves, and the other question, which is less about music. I think this will speak, to many people on the call, because you're a child of people who immigrated to this country. I think you were born here, right?
That's correct. Yes, I was born.
And I think I asked you this once, but I think it would be interesting for other people to hear. I was wondering if, I assume your parents came here, and the typical story, to make a better life for their children. And then your path leads you back to the traditional music of your ancestors, so to speak. And literally traveling back there to study with masters there. And how did that happen? And how did your family react to it?
Yeah, great questions. I'll start with the second one maybe, because I think so. I was born here. I was born in New Jersey, and my family, my parents came to New York City and lived in Queens in 1970. And my family's from South India. So my father from Bangalore, which is a city in the state of Karnataka. And my mom is from a very, very small village called Parvatipuram, and that's in Andhra Pradesh. So music was a part of their lives, and really when they came and they met and got married, my mother is a vocalist. So she sang, and her mother used to play violin, not professionally, but she would play, and she loved music very much. And in that village, actually, they kind of ended up in that village in a kind of a fluke. A train broke down, and my grandfather was a doctor, and they ended up staying in that town for a while because there was a need for a doctor there, and they ended up settling, and it became really a centerpiece for my entire family, which is kind of an amazing story. So when they came to this country, they brought with them music. They brought, my house was filled with music growing up. And that was the way we connected with the community around us. And I know, there was a couple of times in this conversation, the idea of connecting with people and how music can do that. I know we talked about food on this. And I think like food and music to me are the two things that will always live within culture. Like even if we don't want to bring it, we will bring it because we have to eat, and everyone loves music and some kind of music. And I think it's it's ingrained in culture and tradition and religion and everything. It's a part of who we are. So, they set up quite a bit. My father organized concerts and my mother sang concerts, and it became something that was very much a part of who I am. And that's why Indian music was a part of who I was. Even though I grew up here, I think at home, I ate Indian food every night, and I listened to this music, and I also listened to hip hop, and I also listened to rock and roll. So I was into a lot of different things, and I always had kind of multiple sides in my life. And it was a personal choice by me, really, to follow this path. And it's because, and maybe it brings me to this more technical side of the music, ragas and the fundamental kind of elements of Indian classical music. And let me just give a quick background about what we're talking about here. Indian classical music is kind of broken into two different distinct traditions, though they come from the same exact root. And North Indian music is called Hindustani music, and South Indian music is called Carnatic music. I'm coming from the South Indian tradition, Carnatic. But this idea that I'm going to start talking about words like raga and tala, raga being melody, tala being rhythm or time. And those are like the two fundamental aspects. Every kind of music has it, but we very deliberately say this is one and this is the other. Both of those are same in North and South Indian music. But then along the way, and specifically around the time of the 14, 15, 1600s when the Mughal Empire, which was Muslim, Islamic influence in India, came, that's when North Indian music started to change a little bit and it started to modify because Islamic influence, instruments, the different, kings and rajas, the music was court music, so it was played in the courts very often. So the music kind of started to adapt. And so that's when they kind of went on divergent paths, but they kind of still, it's really just about an approach to the same thing. And as I mentioned, that I improvised most of what I played. For its whole history, Indian classical music has been improvised. And so basically what ragas are they're like scales, and what I played, and maybe I'll just demonstrate a quick bit about what I just did. But what I played was a raga called Savitri, and the raga Savitri has 5 notes, as Dan mentioned. 5 notes, and it's centered around a root note. Like we have, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, right? So do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do are names of notes, solfege. So in Indian music, we also have the same thing. Sa, ri, ga, ma, pa, da, ni, sa, ni, da, pa, ma, ga, di, sa. Those pitches can be sa, ri, ga, ma, pa, da, ni, da, pa, ma, ga, di, sa. So you can have different pitches of each of those names, 7 names of notes. So the one I played had 5 notes. So we skipped the 2nd degree, we skipped the 6th degree. And it sounded like this. Sa, ga, ma, pa, ni, sa, ni, pa, ma, ga, sa. So just with those 5 notes, everything I played used only those 5 notes. And, the idea of improvisation and, the idea of freedom through limitation, in a way, we don't even see it as a limitation. I don't see 5 notes as a limitation to me because I can slide, I can ornament, I can color these notes. I can just play a long tone. But when I'm focused in, when I'm meditating into that sound, it is bigger than anything else in the world, right? And the music is very much, and raga music is very connected to self. It's connected, so even as a listener, it's about you connecting with yourself, quieting your mind and really just feeling the vibration of the musician that's playing. Or, if it's you playing, that's what you're trying to do yourself. So feeling that vibration is really what it's about. And there's an instrument that I was droning, I was playing it from my phone here. There's apps for it now, but it's played by an instrument that's a beautiful instrument called a tanpura. And it just has 4 strings that are plucked. And that instrument, when it plays, the way the strings vibrate and resonate together is magical. And it's something, so we center on that. And when you hear that, that's my center note that everything is based on. Sa, ga, ma, pa, ni, sa, ni, pa, ma, ga, sa. And then we can ornament those same 5 notes. Sa, ga, ma, pa, ni, pa, ni. So when we improvise, we just take those notes, we quiet ourselves, and we go right into sort of a feeling. And that was something, the amount that you can explore a raga, things, people play these for an hour. For me to play now for 5 minutes was, a very difficult challenge in a way. Because how do you do everything you want to do? How do you can't really go so deep, right? Which you're just going to do 5 minutes. But if we're playing for 45 minutes or an hour, which is what happens very often, on one raga, on 5 notes. And how much can you explore within those 5 notes? when you want to, you can tell a story with it, you know, and every raga is a little bit different, right? This has like a major third, sa, ga. But if it was a minor third, sa, ga, sa, ga, di, sa, so then you have like kind of a sadder, more melancholy vibe. So all these ragas have different feelings, and I was very drawn to that. That was something that I felt there's so much expression in it. There's so many ways of connecting. When I met Chaim and we performed together, the reason I felt like we could all understand each other is because we're improvising. I'm just hearing the sound he's making, and I'm tapping into what I can do from my space. And you know, music to me is that's what's great about it. And that's why I relate it even to cooking, because you can add spices from all different places. It changes your fundamental dish, but you know, it's a merging of these things. You don't see the different ingredients, right? You just see the dish and you taste it. It's not that tangible. And music is the same way. It can be very like, it's a blending of styles. And so it's all about sound and personal vibration. When you are with somebody like Chaim or Dan, where everyone is open and listening, you know, and wants to understand each other, has empathy for, not empathy, but more curiosity, I suppose. You know, it's about wanting to know what somebody else is doing. Then, you know, the sky's the limit. You can do anything.
Thank you, Arun. I know there's so much more to say, but before we go on to questions, I wanted to make sure maybe you can share in the chat so people know a little bit about the organization that you co-founded. So there are others like Arun. And Arun helped form an organization called, a nonprofit called Brooklyn Raga Massive. And they just do amazing things, bringing classical Indian music to audiences in the US. And even during COVID, they just produced a few weeks ago a 25-hour nonstop music festival with incredible musicians from all around the world. And it was just beautifully produced, one of the most amazing things I've seen during the last 9 or 10 months. And I highly encourage people to go get on the website, get on their mailing list, and see different things they're doing. Even at this time, you don't have to be a professional musician to appreciate what they're doing. The different workshops and seminars and concerts, and it's really wonderful.
Yeah, thanks. It was really nice to work with BJ, B'nai Jeshurun, for that festival as well. We did a set with Andy Statman, an incredible mandolin and clarinet player, klezmer player. So we did a set. We videoed right there. It was really great.
Arun, thank you so much for sharing of your immense talent and just a very beautiful way of describing how it is that you bring this music out into the world and the soulfulness behind it. And in many ways, your voice, your instrument's voice, Lulu sharing with us her father's voice, it all is telling a very similar story. A story of what it means to take the reality that life has given you and to not, as you say, be constricted by it, but to take everything that you can bring to it and to transcend any sense of sadness or limitation and to just bring joy and color and depth and texture and taste and aroma and fragrance. It's just a gorgeous cultural metaphor for the resilience, not just of the Jewish people, but for the resilience of humanity itself. I want to open up for a few moments and give people a chance to ask Lulu and Alan any questions you may have, to ask Arun any questions you may have, to ask Rav Chaim, of course, before we bring our program to a close with another musical offering by our guests tonight. So does anyone want to unmute themselves and raise a question?
After the question, I want to make one comment.
You're muted, Rav Chaim, but please.
Okay, I'll say if there are no questions, I wanted to add something. There's so much to say. I just wanted to say that the influence of India on Judaism is not only food and music and culture. Professor Ephraim Yaakov of Israel says, for example, that the whole culture of dances in Yemen was influenced by Yemenite Jews who traveled to India and back, and it's a whole very complicated philosophy of dance. But beyond that, the mysticism of India has influenced Kabbalah in the early 11th, 12th century, and to some people it might sound strange that how does how does it travel back then, but we have to remember that those are the scholars of Kabbalah, of mysticism, are influencers. They're connected to a network of other scholars. So all you need is one person who travels from one area to another to bring with him the wisdom. So breathing techniques and meditation techniques came from India to the Middle East in the 11th century, according to scholars of Kabbalah, and gave a push in a certain direction to Jewish mysticism. And I want to tell Arun, it was so beautiful to hear you. I know it was short, but your explanation also, I like this. So the I feel the mysticism in the music, right? The soulfulness. I'm just like, as you were playing and explaining about the raga, I'm like going in my head. I'm trying to get like this, like I did like 20 times in my head, and like soon I would be somewhere else. So thank you for that. It was a joy playing with you when we did it live. I hope we could do it again in the future.
Yes.
Any other questions for Lulu, Alan, Arun, Rav Chaim, Dan? Okay, let me just share with you before we turn to our musical guests to bring us to a close. I just want to again express our gratitude to all of you for being with us tonight, especially people who are here for the first time. We're delighted to have you. I want to remind everyone, invite you all to Ground Waves this coming Monday night, a program that Dan and I lead together that weaves beautiful music and deep Torah with a conversation with someone either in the Jewish world or beyond who's doing interesting things with which we want to be in dialogue. This coming Monday night, we'll be hosting Jody Bromberg, who is the CEO of 18 Doors, formerly Interfaith Family. We'll be talking about the growing diversity within our Jewish families, within our Jewish community. We'll be taking a break for a week on December 28th, reconvening on January 4th with Dr. Jennifer Ashton, who is the chief medical correspondent for ABC News and for Good Morning America, who will be talking with us about the rollout of the vaccine, some of the ethical and communal issues involved in that, and also about her about to be released second book, this one on resilience during the time of the pandemic. In the weeks following, we're looking forward to welcoming Dr. Shuli Rubin Schwartz, who is the recently appointed new chancellor of the Jewish Theological Seminary, the first woman ever to hold that position, and Rabbi, oh my God, I've just completely lost her name. I apologize. We'll be welcoming the Rabbi of the Hillel in Elon University, who's one of the growing community of African-American Jewish leaders, and a number of other really remarkable guests who will be joining us on Ground Waves. Our Justice Beit Midrash will be taking a 2-week hiatus, and we'll be back on January 6th to delve into, through texts, classical and modern, the issues that we are currently engaged in terms of bringing a sense of healing and a reweaving of unity in our societies, issues of racism, issues of climate change, issues of housing, immigration, and many others. I want to also just underscore that the Armchair Pilgrim Supper Club, which we are all enjoying tonight on this trip to Mumbai, is a classic expression of the collaboration and the partnership that's at the heart of Sha'ar, bringing us together with Rav Chaim, with Dan, and with other musical guests like Arun and Ismail Lumanovsky, who was with us when we went to Turkey, to Izmir. We invite you, please, to partner with us. The more our interests and our values are woven together, the stronger we are as a people, the stronger we are as a community, especially with programs like tonight that are bringing together the different Jewish cultures that make up our Jewish people. We appreciate so much you being here. We appreciate your participation in our programs, your sense of support that you're offering Sha'ar. We appreciate you keeping us in mind as you make your end of year gifts. Again, with your partnership, we can continue to bring you the powerful content and the encounters that are at the heart of building a 21st century Jewish life. Yes, Sandra Lawson. Thank you very much. I had a senior moment there. Sandra Lawson is the rabbi from Elon University, whom we are going to be welcoming to Ground Waves. So I'm going to turn over to Dan and Arun, and I think Rav Chaim, to bring our program to a close tonight. Thank you again to Lulu and Alan for sharing of your family, of your heart and soul, your beautiful images, and I hope that we'll be able to join together again in the near future.
Regards to Edna. Rabbi Chaim, do you see that? I want it. Regards to Edna.
I will. She sent regards
Oh,
also.
good. Please send her love.
So I think Dini will spotlight us again. That would be great. Thank you, Dini. It's been great to be here and hear the stories and see the images. We'll do one more song. This is from the Jewish community in Mumbai, and it's called Shir Chadash Ashir, a new song I will sing. The text is common in other communities too, but this melody came from India, and it's basically it's based on the Song of the Sea, and what we sing in when the Hebrews crossed the Red Sea, when they were escaping from the Mitzrayim, from the Egyptians, and the song and dance that burst out. And it has a refrain that's a repeating line, Az Yashir Moshe Israel, Hashira Hazot LaAdonai. So it's got this nice built-in mechanism of call and response. So we're gonna try to do that over Zoom.
שיר חדש אשיר בשם האל, אקדיש בעדת אריאל. שיר חדש אשיר בשם האל, אקדיש בעדת אריאל. אז יש
שיר משה ישראל, השירה הזאת לאדוני.
נחשפה קלת נפשי, ישכון בחצרות בית קודשי. נחשפה קלת נפשי, ישכון בחצרות בית קודשי.
אז ישיר משה ישראל, השירה הזאת לאדוני.
שיר חדש אשיר בשם האל, השיר בעד אריאל. שיר חדש אשיר בשם האל, אקדיש בעד אריאל. משה ישראל, זאת אדוני. שיר חדש אשיר בשם האל, אקדיש ועדת אריאל.
אז ישיר משה ישראל, השירה הזאת לאדוני.
אז ישיר משה ישראל, השירה הזאת לאדוני. אז ישיר משה ישראל, השירה הזאת לאדוני.
That was so beautiful, a gorgeous way to end such a special evening. Thank you everyone for being with us tonight. Stay safe, stay healthy, and let's look forward to many more adventures together in the months to come. Laila Tov, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you,
you, Lulu and
Lila
Alan, Arun
Tov.
and Dan. Thank you all.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
So much.
Ellen,
Bye.
you should put the sign with Kamala Harris is behind you. You know, we should honor her. And when you planned the night, you didn't know that she's going to be the vice president. It's a great honor.
I knew.
I mean, we all knew, but we didn't know. No. Okay.
Bye, Lato.
Bye, Laila Tov. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Lovely. Thank
Lulu.
you.
Thank you, Lulu and Alan.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Lovely.
Lovely evening.
Good night, everyone. Thank you, Penny.
Thank you, Penny.